16,000. That is the net number of American jobs that disappeared last month because of artificial intelligence. Not because of a recession, not because of offshoring, because of software. 192,000 in a year. Goldman Sachs published that figure in an April 2026 U.S. Daily Note. Authored by economist Elsie Peng. And if you stopped there, it would already be one of the more unsettling labor market findings of the decade. But 16,000 is the polite number. Goldman's own breakdown says AI substitution wiped out roughly 25,000 jobs per month over the past year. Augmentation, the part where AI makes some workers more productive and generates new roles, added back about 9,000. So the net is 16,000 gone every month. The way a company reports net income after hiding all the interesting expenses. Above the line, same energy. 25,000 people lost work, 9,000 different people got work. And someone at Goldman typed net negative 16,000 into a note and moved on to the next chart. That is not a rounding error in a Bureau of Labor Statistics release. That is a mid-size American town emptied of paychecks every 30 days. The March 2026 BLS jobs report showed the national unemployment rate at 4.3% changed little, they said. 7.2 million unemployed changed little, they said. The word little is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, which, honestly, is a neat trick when your methodology averages a 24-year-old data entry clerk in Raleigh and a 53-year-old construction foreman in Tulsa into the same decimal point. And here is the thing about net numbers. They are designed to make you feel like the system is managing itself. 25,000 out, 9,000 in net, 16,000. Sounds almost orderly, like a dashboard with a slightly red indicator light. Not an emergency, just a metric trending in the wrong direction. This is not advice. I do not know your tax bracket, your debt, or your risk tolerance. What I know is what the data says, and the data says this. That dashboard is lying to you, not because the numbers are wrong, because net is the wrong unit of measurement. When you are trying to understand what is happening to actual people, 3 reports, same week, same conclusion from 3 different directions. Goldman Sachs, Epoch AI, Boston Consulting Group, each one published independently, none of them coordinated. All of them landed on the same fault line. So here is the structure. We start with Goldman's 16,000 and pull it apart. Then we go to Epoch AI's survey of 2,000 American adults to see who is actually using these tools and what is already changing inside their workplaces. Then we go to BCG's microeconomic model, which says 50 to 55% of American jobs will be reshaped in the next 2 to 3 years, not eliminated, reshaped. And that distinction matters more than anyone is explaining. Layer 1, the substitution math. Goldman's framework separates AI's labor market impact into 2 forces: substitution, where AI replaces a worker outright, and augmentation, where AI makes an existing worker more productive. The economists built their model by combining standard AI exposure scores with a complementarity index developed by IMF researchers. An occupation scores high on substitution risk. When AI can handle most of its core tasks, insurance claims clerks, bill collectors, data entry operators, customer service representatives, legal support staff, billing departments. Every single one of those job titles sounds like a punchline at this point, which is unfortunate because millions of Americans held those roles as recently as 2023. An occupation scores high on augmentation potential when AI handles some tasks. but human judgment or physical presence remains essential. Lawyers, construction managers, physicians, the people whose jobs require them to be in a room making a decision that someone else has to live with. The substitution side erased 25,000 jobs per month. The augmentation side created about 9,000. Goldman's economists were careful to note that the true aggregate impact is likely smaller than these estimates suggest. They said the analysis does not fully capture the offsetting hiring surge tied to AI infrastructure, data centers, power systems, construction. And that is true. But it is also true that a data center in rural Virginia does not employ the same person who just lost a claims adjuster position in Raleigh. The jobs being created and the jobs being destroyed do not share a zip code, a skill set, or a salary range. That is not a labor market correction. That is a labor market substitution with a different shipping address. One occupation disappears in one city. A different occupation appears in a different state. Layer 2. Who is already inside the machine? Epoch AI partnered with Ipsos to survey 2021 American adults. In March 2026, probability-based sampling weighted to census benchmarks, not a Twitter poll. Half of American adults used AI tools in the past week. Among employed Americans who used AI in the past week, half reported using AI at least as much for work as for personal tasks. 27% of employed AI work users said AI has replaced some of their existing tasks. 21% said they started doing new tasks at work they would not have done without AI. So the replacement rate is outpacing the creation rate. Even inside the survey data, 27% lost tasks, 21% gained tasks. That is a 6-point gap at the individual task level. Inside workplaces that still technically employ these people. And here is where the paid versus free split gets interesting. Among free-tier AI users, 38% used AI primarily for work. Among self-paying subscribers, 58%. Among users with employer-provided subscriptions, 76%. The companies paying for AI seats are getting more AI-driven work out of their people. And then Goldman is separately counting the jobs that are disappearing. These are not unrelated observations. Nicholas Mielhe, an AI policy expert at the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence, told NBC News after the Epoch survey, when 1 in 5 workers say AI is already replacing parts of their job, we can start talking about labor market restructuring happening in real time. That sentence sat in an NBC article for a week and nobody blinked. Layer 3. The generation that showed up after the ladder was pulled. This is the layer where 16,000 per month stops being an economics number and starts being a biography. Goldman's regression analysis found that in occupations most exposed to AI substitution, the unemployment rate gap between entry-level workers under 30 and experienced workers ages 31 to 50 has widened sharply relative to pre-pandemic averages. A 1 standard deviation increase in AI substitution exposure widens the entry-level to experienced wage gap by roughly 3.3 percentage points. Gen Z workers are disproportionately concentrated in exactly the types of routine, white-collar, and administrative roles that AI automates first. Data entry, customer service, legal support, billing. These are not niche occupations. These are the on-ramps, the first jobs. The roles where you learn how offices work, how deadlines feel, how to talk to a manager who does not agree with you. Stanford's Digital Economy Lab published a study tracking employment for software developers aged 22 to 25. By mid-2025, employment in that age bracket had declined nearly 20% from its late 2022 peak. For developers over 30, headcount was stable or growing 20% for one of the most in-demand job categories of the last decade for people in their early 20s. The generation that was told learn to code is now watching the code learn to do their job. That is not irony, that is a policy failure dressed up as progress. A separate Goldman report released the same week found that workers displaced by technology take an average 3% pay cut when they find new work. Over the following decade, their real earnings grow 10 percentage points less than workers who were never displaced 10 percentage points across 10 years. Compounded. That is not just a setback, that is a different financial life, a different retirement age, a different answer to the question of whether you can afford a house at 35. And the mechanism is not mysterious. Goldman calls it occupational downgrading. You lose a job that required analytical and interpersonal skills. You take a job that requires fewer of both, because the same technology that eliminated your position also eroded the market value of what you know how to do. Your resume did not get worse, the economy moved the scoreboard. But here is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Layer 4, the word no one is defining. BCG Henderson Institute published its own analysis in April 2026. Their model examined 165 million U.S. jobs across 1,500 roles. Their headline finding, 50 to 55% of American jobs will be reshaped by AI over the next 2 to 3 years. Not eliminated, reshaped. That word, reshaped, is doing more structural damage to the labor market than any layoff headline, and nobody is forcing anyone to define it. BCG breaks their analysis into 6 categories. Amplified roles, 5% of jobs, where AI makes workers more productive and demand expands. Rebalanced roles, 14%, where AI changes tasks but headcount stays roughly stable. Divergent roles, 12%, where entry-level positions are automated but senior positions expand. Substituted roles, 12%, where jobs are eliminated outright. Enabled roles, 23%, where AI becomes embedded in daily work but does not fundamentally alter structure. And limited exposure roles, 34%, where automation remains technically difficult. The substituted and divergent categories together account for 10 to 15% of American jobs that BCG says could be eliminated within 5 years. That is roughly 16 to 25 million positions. Here is the generational math. Your parents walked into their first job, and the tools they needed to learn were a phone, a filing cabinet, and maybe a spreadsheet. The expectation was that you would get better at those tools over 30 years, and that the tools would stay roughly the same. You are walking into a job where the tools change every 6 months, where the tasks you were hired to perform may not exist by the time your probation period ends, and where the company that hired you is simultaneously paying for an AI subscription and posting your job description on a vendor's capabilities page. BCG's own language is careful. They say reshaped, not replaced. And for 55% of American workers, that distinction might feel comforting for about another 18 months. Right up until the moment their manager explains that the role has been restructured and the new version requires skills that did not exist when they were hired. Before anyone flags this, everything here is public record. Goldman Sachs Daily Note, April 2026. Epoch AI and Ipsos survey. March 2026. BCG Henderson Institute publication, April 2026. Stanford Digital Economy Lab, November 2025. Bureau of Labor Statistics Employment Situation, Summary, March 2026. I am not selling anything. I am showing you what is already out there. So here is where all three reports converge. Goldman says 16,000 net jobs per month are already gone. Epoch says half of employed AI users report that AI is already changing their tasks, and the replacement rate is outrunning the creation rate. BCG says 55% of all jobs will be reshaped in 2 to 3 years, and 10 to 15% could be eliminated within 5. The comforting narrative is that AI creates as many jobs as it destroys. Goldman's own note tried to make that case with the augmentation numbers. 9,000 created against 25,000 destroyed. But those 9,000 are not going to the same people, in the same cities, at the same wage. The actual math looks more like this. If you are a 26-year-old claims adjuster in Raleigh, making $54,000 a year, AI is not creating a new job for you. It is creating a job for a 29-year-old AI infrastructure technician in Ashburn, Virginia, making $88,000. Your net is their net. But only one of you is still paying rent in June. And the retraining argument. Goldman did find that workers who retrained after a tech-driven job loss saw a 2 percentage point increase in cumulative real wage growth over 10 years and a 10 percentage point decline in their probability of future unemployment. That is real. But it is also a 10-year timeline measured against a labor market that is repricing skills every quarter. 73,000 tech workers have been laid off across 95 companies in the first 4 months of 2026 alone. That is just the tech sector. Challenger, Gray, and Christmas reported that AI led all cited reasons for job cuts in March 2026, with over 15,000 layoffs attributed to the technology. In that single month, the tech sector recorded 52,050 job cuts through the first quarter, a 40% jump from the same period last year. And through all of it, the BLS report says 4.3% changed little. One number, 4.3, sitting on top of 25,000 monthly job destructions. A 20% employment decline for young software developers. A 3.3 percentage point wage gap widening. A 10 percentage point earnings scar lasting a decade. And a BCG projection that says more than half of American jobs are about to become something else entirely. The dashboard says 4.3. The dashboard is not lying. It is just measuring the building from the outside, while the floors are being rearranged with people still sitting at their desks. Somewhere tonight, someone is refreshing a job board on their phone. They graduated 2 years ago. They did what they were told. They got the degree. They learned the software. They applied to 47 openings last month and heard back from 3. They are not a statistic in Goldman's regression model. They are not a data point in Epoch's survey. They are not a segment in BCG's framework. They are looking at a screen, doing the math. And the math is not coming out the way anyone promised it would.